everybody, welcome back. As promised today, 2 sauces. A lot of stuff here, I know. One of them is super easy, one of them's got a lot more going on. So we'll do the super easy one first. Like I said last week that we would do this today, I don't think I've ever shown it. I used to be a jarred sauce person my whole life growing up, that's what we ate. But then I was yelled at a bunch of times to stop using jarred sauce. So I had to learn how to make my own. So I came up with this recipe for a great marinara sauce and an even better Bolognese sauce if you like a nice meaty sauce. Now, these are not the be-all, end-all of sauces. I just find them to be very basic, and I've adjusted them the more I've made them. I made them a bunch of times. The more I make them, the more I adjust it. That's what's so great about making your own sauce as opposed to a jarred sauce, is that as you make it, every time you make it more and more, you start to realize the flavor profile that you like, whether you like more garlic in yours, whether you like more oregano in yours, whatever it is. You'll just eventually start to make it your own. Now, if you're Italian and you have a nonna who you've been eating her sauce your whole life, believe me, I'm sure this is not going to impress you at all. You'll probably be like, yeah, anyway, I got the best sauce. Okay, but if you're like me and you grew up on jarred sauce and you just want to learn how to make a basic marinara sauce for yourself or a basic bolognese sauce for yourself, this is for you today, okay? So let's get started. We'll do the marinara first because it's super easy, okay? So I got a big stock pot here, okay? But I'm going to go over a medium heat here. And I got about 1/4 cup of olive oil. Okay, we're going to start with that. So let's get that olive oil hot. Now, to this I'm going to add, once it's nice and hot, but I'll start to tell you about it. Oh, what you got to do, you need 3 big cans of tomatoes, plum tomatoes, peeled plum tomatoes. They can be whole because you're going to kind of chop them up and break them up yourself. Or you could immersion blend them if you like a real smooth marinara sauce rather than chunky. So what you want to do is drain the liquid, just put them in a colander over a big bowl and let the liquid, just stir it around, let all the liquid drain out so you have just the chunky tomatoes left in here, okay? Here I have about 15 cloves of garlic because as I've made this recipe over and over and over, I find that I really just love garlic in everything. If you're one of those people that says, oh, I'm allergic to garlic, no, you're not. It may not agree with you, but you're not allergic to it. Go lighter if you don't like as heavy a garlic taste, but I wouldn't omit it because you definitely want it to help flavor your sauce. So I just did a nice rough chop on about 15 cloves of garlic here. So once my oil is hot, I'm going to just kind of add that in there. Wooden spoon for these too. No spatulas, no rubber spatulas. We want nice wooden spoon, just like Nonna used to do, right? I'm not Italian, so I didn't have a Nonna, which is why I ate jarred sauce all my life. Okay, so what we want to do is just cook this for about 5 minutes and let the garlic brown up. Now watch it and stir it because you don't want to burn your garlic because that'll make your sauce bitter and you don't want that, okay? We just want to kind of brown up our garlic without burning it. Great thing about making your own sauces, if you're like me and you grow a lot of your own herbs and stuff, it's a great way to use them up, okay? And it makes so much that, like I said, I put them in containers and I freeze it. So whenever you need some sauce, you just take one out and you're ready to go, okay? So our garlic is nice and brown there. We're going to add to that now a nice bunch, a nice handful of chopped up, I just kind of chiffonaded the basil. So we're going to add some basil there, a nice pinch of basil, or a handful of basil. Okay, I also have from my garden, these are all from my garden, I also have some, maybe about a teaspoon of oregano, fresh chopped oregano. And I have here about a good heaping tablespoon of fresh parsley, okay? Again, I grow all my own stuff, which is great. So we're just gonna kind of mix that together. We're going to add a little salt and pepper, probably maybe about a teaspoon of each, teaspoon to 2 teaspoons each. You can always zhuzh your sauce later if you feel it needs a little bit more. Okay, so we just kind of want to mix that just for about 30 seconds to a minute, just kind of incorporate that all together. And now we're going to take just the chunky part of the tomato and put that in. I our pot here. And we're just going to try to break them up with our spoon. Okay, that's why I said you're not looking to chop it or anything else. You just want to kind of break it up into big chunks. Now later on, if you want to go in with your immersion blender because you think it's maybe too chunky for you, or you just like a smoother spaghetti sauce kind of thing, you can do that also after this is all kind of cooked together. Okay, so we're just going to cook this just for a minute or two. My coat is going to be very dirty today with a lot of tomato splashing. Okay. Okay, so I moved our marinara sauce where we left it with the tomatoes in there we added. We're going to let that simmer, very low heat, for about 15 minutes, okay, before we add our juice to that. So just let that simmer and kind of cook very low heat. Make sure you stir it every now and then too, because you don't want to burn the bottom of your pot, because it will definitely burn your sauce. Your sauce will taste burnt. I've had that happen before, and I've even had that in a restaurant or two before, where I've tasted, as soon as you taste the sauce, you go, man, they burned this sauce. Okay, anyway, let's get started on the big one today, because this is a big one, but it's so worth it, okay? If you like a meaty, chunky Bolognese sauce, I love this sauce. There's so much going on to this, okay? Let me turn on my heat here. We're going to get a medium heat going. Same thing, quarter cup of olive oil to start. Once our oil is hot, here again, but this time I minced it up really good. I used my garlic press to really get a nice crushed up, you know, really small garlic pieces. Probably, let me see, I don't know, it's probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons, which could be like 8 to 10 garlic cloves, okay? Again, I love garlic, and in a sauce I really love garlic, and in this sauce I really love it. So I'm just going to put that in and just kind of start to cook that first for about a minute or two. And then the next things you're going to need, I have half of a chopped onion here. I have 2 chopped celery stalks, and maybe about 2 to 3 chopped carrots, depending on the size of them. Okay, you want kind of your carrots and celery to be kind of even. Your onion can be a little bit more with the onion. Okay, so you get those ready, because we're going to drop them in one at a time and just kind of cook them along. Okay. Same thing here, make sure you're stirring your garlic because you do not want it to burn. Wow, it smells so good in here already, between the tomatoes cooking back there and the garlic cooking over here. So once your garlic just starts to cook for about a minute or two, you don't really want to brown it at this point because this is going to cook a little bit longer. You're going to add your onions next. Okay, and we're going to kind of incorporate that and stir that in and let that simmer for about a minute or so, okay? Then next you're going to add your celery, okay? Again, let it stir it up, mix it in, let it cook for about a minute or two. And finally you'll add your carrots, okay, after about another minute or two. And you're just going to stir them up. Turn it up to a higher heat now. And make sure you let these cook for just a couple minutes just to kind of soften them up. And we're going to get ready to add our meat to this next, because we got to brown up our meat with all of our veggies here. Okay? So let me just get that mixed, and then I'll tell you what we need for our meat part of it. The thing I liked about this recipe, or taking a bunch of them and taking different ideas, I love the incorporation of sausage into this one. So what I have here is about a pound of sweet sausage that I just took out of the casing. They look like links, which they were, but I took the casing off. And I have about a pound of ground beef, okay? Now, I like to use 80 lean because it has more fat in it, which to me, fat is where the flavor is. I don't care what they tell you. If you want to go with the leaner cut, you're more than welcome to 95 or whatever to make it a little healthier, but for a sauce, for me, I want a lot of that fat in there because that's really going to flavor our sauce nicely. Okay, so here we have all our softened vegetables now. They've been sitting here cooking. So now to this, we're just going to add our sausage and our beef. And I'm just going to use my wooden spoon and chop up everything, the sausage, break up the sausage and everything as best you can. Okay, because we don't want big chunky pieces. I like a Bolognese sauce that has, you know, decent sized pieces, but I like it really pretty broken up because I like to have, you know, the flavors in every bite. You know, not just a big chunk of sausage. I mean, if you were going to do that, you might as well just slice the sausage and throw it in there if you want to, which you can do also. I mean, you know, this is an idea that I've been doing, or, you know, a recipe I put together that I've been doing that I really enjoy. But like I said in the beginning, I mean, you'll find as you make it over and over and over, if you do, and I hope you do, that you'll make your own subtle changes to it. I mean, you can definitely add different cuts of meat into this. You don't have to use ground beef and sausage. I just find this to be a more basic recipe. If you want to do fancier stuff, fancier meats in there and stuff, by all means, go right ahead. But I kind of like this the way it is. It's nice and easy. It's very easy to get these ingredients all over the store. You may have a lot of them in your house already. I have a ton of sausage in my freezer, so it's easy for me to just kind of use what I got. All right? So now I'm just going to cook this for about 7 to 8 minutes or so. I just want to make sure all my meat is broken up and really browned and incorporated with these veggies. And we'll be back when we're ready to do the next step. In the meantime, I'll check my other sauce. Don't forget your other sauce. Gotta stir them maters. Make sure they're not burning. All right? See you in a few. Okay, so our meat is just about all browned up nicely in here. Okay, so we're gonna add our other stuff. But before I do that, I'm gonna go back to my marinara here, which has been simmering on a very low heat. Love the way this is looking. Now I'm going to add this juice from the tomatoes when you took them out of the can. That's why you strained them. Okay, so we're going to add this juice to this now, and we're just going to mix it all together because now those flavors have all kind of cooked, the basil and the garlic and the tomato chunks and everything else. And we're just going to let this simmer for a little while. But every now and then make sure you go in and stir it, okay, to make sure it doesn't burn. But we're going to very low heat, about a half hour or so, just kind of let that go. Alrighty, so back to our Bolognese. To our Bolognese now, we're going to add a nice bunch of basil, chopped up, chiffonaded again, okay, right to this. We have about, I don't know, a nice bunch of fresh parsley. I'm just saying bunches because you can go as light or as heavy. I don't want to say, you know, this tablespoon, that tablespoon. For this, it's kind of like just go with what you know, or go with what you like. You're going to add also some fresh oregano. Again, these are all herbs from the garden. Okay. We have some chopped up rosemary. For the oregano and the rosemary, I probably only did about maybe a half a teaspoon each of those. Half a teaspoon to a teaspoon because the sausage, don't forget, our sweet sausage has a lot of herbs in it probably already anyway. So we just want to make sure we don't over season this either. Okay. To that, I'm also going to add a bay leaf. What that does, I have no idea. Sometimes you find them in your onion soup at the restaurant. They forgot to take it out and you're eating your onion soup and all of a sudden you pull this big leaf out. Okay. It adds some kind of flavor. I just don't know what. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of salt and about a half a tablespoon of pepper. Okay, just to kind of start seasoning this up a little bit. So you mix that all together. And just let that simmer for a couple minutes, okay? Let all those spices and herbs infuse into our meat here. This is looking so good already and it smells amazing. Okay, so now it's been a couple more minutes. I'm going to increase my heat to high on this, okay? Because now I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of a nice dry red wine, okay? And we want this to really boil and reduce. So make sure you're up on a high heat now. And we're going to boil that now just for a couple minutes, just till we see that it's kind of reduced down. We want the flavor, but we don't want necessarily this brothy wine. Okay, so just let that cook, maybe about 5 minutes or so. High heat, let that really evaporate and cook down. Now that that's reduced a bit, which we like, that's what we're looking for, okay? We're going to add to this, get another one of those big cans of plum tomatoes, San Marzanos preferably, they say, because they're sweeter and they're better tasting than the just regular, but if you can't find them, that's okay, and they're a little pricier than regular tomatoes. You can use either one. to our mixture here, I'm going to add 2 cups of beef stock and a big 28-ounce can of those tomatoes that are drained also, okay? Now, that's the good thing about making both these sauces at the same time. I mean, if it's a hot, first of all, try to pick a cooler day. It's summertime, I know. Try to pick a cooler day. Nobody really wants to be standing over their stove with 2 pots in July trying to make sauces. So try to pick like a rainy, crappy day, because they come up every now and then in the summer. And the best part about making both of these at the same time is this one you're draining the juice out just like you did with the first one, but you're not going to be incorporating that juice into this. So take that extra juice from the can and put it in with your marinara sauce just to stretch that a little bit more, okay? So now I'm still on a high heat here. Make sure you're scraping the bottom to make sure that nothing is sticking and burning, okay? And I'm just going to continue to heat it, bring it to a boil again, because as soon as you dump that stuff in, it stops boiling. Bring it up to a boil again. Once you get that back to a boil, see it's a nice boil you got going here now. Now you're going to do like you did with the other one. You're going to turn this down to a nice, very low heat. Very low, okay? We're going to give it one final stir for right now. And then we're going to cover this, and we're going to turn on our handy dandy timer for 1 hour. We're going to let this simmer for an hour. Now, about every 20 minutes or so, I recommend you come back. Get in there, stir, scrape the bottom, make sure there's nothing sticking and burning to the bottom because you don't want to burn your sauce at this point. Okay, so that one's going to go about another half hour, then this one for an hour, and then we'll be back to add just the last couple of ingredients to this, and we're done. And we got these 2. Now, what else am I going to do today? I need a dessert for movie time, right? So, just like last week, the zucchinis are blooming like crazy. So I got plenty of squash and zucchini here, yellow squash and zucchini. So I guess I gotta kind of make a dessert with this. So we'll do the zucchini bread. I know I said I'd like to do a million other things besides zucchini bread. Okay, so both our sauces are done here. Here's our marinara, and here's our bolognese. Now, our bolognese isn't very tomatoey because we drained the juice out. So I mean, there's chunks of the plum tomatoes get broken down in here. It's a great sauce. I mean, it's very meaty, but if you want to, which is why I like to do both of them at the same time as well, I'll take a cup of my marinara sauce, and I'm just going to stir that in and add that to my bolognese sauce, just to give it a little bit more of a tomatoey kind of base. You can go heavier, whatever. You could actually mix the 2 together if you wanted to, if you wanted just bolognese, but I like having both sauces different. Now, the last thing we're going to add to our bolognese sauce here, I have about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, okay, and I have a cup of Pecorino Romano cheese, grated cheese, okay. We're going to add that right to it. You just kind of mix that all together. That's going to thicken this up a little bit and give it so much flavor, even more flavor than it already has. Oh, I love this sauce. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. And that's it. That's our 2 sauces for today. Pretty easy, right? I mean, the hardest part is the prep. Not on this one. This is super easy to make your own marinara sauce. Why would you buy jarred marinara sauce? It's 5 minutes to put this thing together and, a half an hour to cook it. This one's a little more work because of the onions and the celery and the herbs and all this stuff and the sausage. And I mean, there's a lot more steps to it, and there's definitely a lot more ingredients to it. But when I tell you, you will be blown away with this sauce. Great over pasta. Use it for lasagna. Use it for whatever you want to use it for. Just get some bread and dunk into this thing. I'm going to give it a quick taste. Just for salt and pepper reasons, make sure that you're trying. Now, you could also add, I didn't add to either one of these, some crushed red pepper if you wanted it a little more spicy, if you wanted to give your marinara a little bit of heat. You could do that too. I love this sauce. Love it. Okay, so I got my sauces all put away in the freezer. Nice. Perfect. We got lots of sauce now when we need it. Okay, we're going to get started on the zucchini bread. And like I said, I wanted to try to do something low carb, sugar-free or sugar substitute, so at least it's a little bit better for us. Now, the thing I'm going to be using, which we've used before, is almond flour. 2.5 cups of almond flour, okay? Now, the thing when you're using almond flour, coconut flour, any of those kind of obscure flours. They usually require more moisture, so this is probably going to work for this cake pretty well, because I'm not going to drain. I shredded my zucchini. I took one whole zucchini and shredded it, but I'm not going to drain the liquid out. A lot of recipes for zucchini bread, they tell you to strain it and get a lot of the liquid out of it. I'm not going to do that with this one, because I want that extra liquid in here, hopefully to work well with this almond flour. Because like I said, usually they tell you need more liquid because it gets really dry. Okay, to that I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, and I'm also going to add this one, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Okay, so I'm just going to start by mixing those, just to kind of incorporate that together. Now my two substitutes I'm using, I got 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, which looks like brown sugar. We've used that before. And I have a tablespoon of Swerve, which is the sweetener that I like, the artificial sweetener, because it doesn't have that aftertaste. Okay, like I said, 1 whole zucchini, 4 eggs, and I'm also adding, so it gets almost like that pound cake kind of texture, I'm hoping. This is all a bunch of ideas all thrown together, so we're hoping this works out okay. I have a half a cup of sour cream, like I said, to add more moisture and kind of give it that pound cake, coffee cake kind of thing, I'm hoping. Okay, so now we have that. I'm going to add my 2 sugars. This is all one bowl too, which is nice. Okay, so I'll add those. I'll put all my dry ingredients first. Kind of mix that up. And then what I'm going to do is add my sour cream next. Okay, as you can see, it's already making like a dough. I'm going to add my zucchini with the liquid and all. Just take that grated zucchini. I just grated it on a box grater. Okay, so I'm going to add that right to this. And then once that's incorporated, I'm just going to drop my eggs in one at a time if I can. I'm not just going to dump all 4 of them in there. I'll just one at a time try to get, there you go. See, just like that. And get it right into that bowl. And we'll do that and incorporate all 4 of these. I decided rather than using a loaf pan, I'm going to use one of my cake pans. I sprayed it really good with that non-stick baking spray. And put a piece of parchment on the bottom as well and gave it a quick little spritz. So this should easily pop this cake right out. That Pam baking spray in the blue can, love it. It's great. It's got a little bit of flour in the spray, so it just makes for the stuff to come right out of your pans. Okay, so let me finish mixing this and we'll be right back to put that in there and get it in the oven. Okay, and that's it. See how easy this is today? Just those simple ingredients, a couple minutes in the mixer, all in one bowl. No big mess. Into my hot soapy water. Okay, and into our pan. Now, if this works out well, this is a sweet version, obviously, because we have the, the coconut flour and the Swerve. If this works out well as a sweet cake and it comes out nice and moist and whatever, you could probably also make this a savory cake, savory zucchini cake, by leaving out the sugar, maybe adding some spices or some herbs, some dill and stuff like that. Maybe some cheddar cheese or some kind of cheese to this, and make it almost like a savory zucchini bread that you could kind of slice and serve with dinner or toast up, and So we'll see. We'll see how this comes out. So I'm just kind of patting it down. 350 oven, 1 hour. Keep your eye on it though, as always, baking. Never just assume, oh, it's an hour, it's not an hour. Okay? We'll see when this comes out. Fingers crossed, everybody. Experimenting with zucchini today. Okay, so there's our nice cake. I'll take just a little sliver of that. Okay, look how nice that is. It came out really, really nice. It's still moist, which is kind of good. We like that. It's spongy. So I'm thinking the addition of the sour cream and adding the extra, the eggs and everything else, the wetness of it, the almond flour work rather than be dry like a lot of times the almond flour tends to be. So let's give it a taste. Yeah. Tastes almost banana breadish, you know, with the cinnamon and everything. It's not really sweet. I probably could have went heavier, I know for next time now, with the sweetener. A little more sugar to make it a little more sweet. If we were doing a regular one with regular sugar and doing the glaze, it'd be perfectly fine. You know, powdered sugar and a little milk and you glaze it. But yeah, it definitely works. And I could definitely see doing this as a savory with some more herbs in it and the cheese, like I said, if you wanted a variation on this. So it definitely works. Okay, so let's talk movies. So our first one we watched this week was From Here to Eternity. Great movie. Really, really love this movie a lot. A lot of big names in this movie. I mean, the big stars obviously are Burt Lancaster, Frank Sinatra, but there's a lot of cameo appearances. Ernest Borgnine, like you'll see as you're watching it, there's like a ton of younger actors that became big later. So I love stuff like that. Great story, romantic, you know, the whole thing, and then there's other sub stories going on in there. Really, really good movie. The other one we watched wasn't as crazy about. The Philadelphia Story. It's let's see, Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart. Love these actors. I mean, I think they're all great. I think their performances were great. The story was a little boring to me. At times I felt myself nodding off. I much preferred the Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant movie we watched earlier in the list, Bringing Up Baby. I think that was a much more entertaining movie, more fun. This one was, it was okay, but it wasn't anything that I thought, oh wow, I can't wait to see this one again, or I'll watch it over and over and over. I don't know, it was a little boring to me. Alrighty, so here's what we're watching for this week. Okay, so we hit the halfway mark. We're at number 50, counting down, and we're starting off with something I've never seen before, and I know you're going to be like, how did he never see this movie? I don't know, I just never saw this movie. Number 50, 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's been on TV a million times. I just never sat there and watched it. I don't know why. So we're going to get a nice view of this one and see what we think. Hopefully it's as good as we hope it is. And our other movie for this week, number 49, 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yes, the animated Disney version, which I saw many, many years ago. I mean, I know the story. I probably have seen it a bunch of times in my lifetime. But we'll watch it again, and hopefully it's just as entertaining as when we saw it first. Alrighty? So we'll see you next week. Zucchini bread, or zucchini cake, or something. Come on, suggestions, comments. I need to know what you people want me to make next. Alrighty? Have a good week.